Hey, welcome back everyone. Rob here from Ram Studio Comics, and in today's video I'm going to show you this time lapse of this character creation process, and it's all being drawn and inked inside of Procreate. But the neat thing about this is actually done with the new upgrade they just made, or update I should say, the 4.2 version, and I think it's 4.2 yada yada because they keep making revisions. But the neat thing about this was I got to beta test and test the stroke taper that they added. So they added a few really awesome features, and we're going to jump into that the more we utilize this app, and I'll explain parts of it as I create artwork with it. But the stroke taper in and of itself is just a major contribution to what this app needed. Something that's very important for us comic artists, because I would pencil in this, as you probably know if you follow the channel, I would sketch in this, and it felt very natural. I think from the very start of using Procreate, the drawing aspect of it was phenomenal. So I didn't think that needed much in the way of updates. But as I started to ink more with this particular app, I had to make a few kind of modifications and brush variations to get it just the way that I felt it needed to be. And I even had to change the way I would create some of my lines. I've talked about that in other videos. But when they made this new update, it kind of changed everything, because now I feel like you can go back to, or I can go back to, creating the lines that I traditionally would create. And what I mean by that is kind of a thick to thin pull. So when I taper my lines, I typically start with heavy pressure, and I would almost flick the pen, especially when I used crow quill or even microns. I'd always kind of flick the pen to get that thinner kind of brush stroke that I wanted. And even with the brush, I would do that. And now with the modifications they've done in this app, I feel like it's more conducive to that process. So you're going to have to try it out yourself, but you can see here as I start to apply the inks over this, I can, obviously it's moving pretty quickly, but you can see nice line variation and nice control of the lines. The cross hatching is pretty tight. In fact, when they asked me to develop a couple characters to kind of showcase the new features, I purposely did this guy with, they might actually ask me to do this, but I purposely put a lot of line work in here, a lot of cross hatching, a lot of old school 90s comic stuff, if you will. I know like new comics, there's not as much of this going on, but I just love the detail. I love putting in the line variation. So that's what you see me doing here. So I purposely went with some broken up texture. You see it in the beginning of the sketch, I was thinking more like some cityscape background, but then I started to think, what if this creature, whatever he is, comes down and just like smashes into the ground, and he's already wreaked havoc, and there's all this, flim flam stuff just laying around all busted up. It's always a fun kind of background, and it's kind of a mindless thing too. I like it a lot because you can just kind of draw whatever your imagination might see. You're not thinking about perspective as much. You're just thinking about like overlapping shapes and textures, which is always fun. So at any rate, back to the features on this, I got to tell you, when working through this, it didn't feel like I was having to conform to the way that the app works, like the way that the brushes work. You'll see that when we jump into messing around with some settings, and I'll do that in an upcoming video here, we're going to talk about the sliders and what implications those have as you adjust your settings under that stroke taper feature that they've now added. But the main thing is that right out of the gate, it felt a lot more natural. So they did something to really kind of bring it in and refine it to a way that I think most artists that do this type of line work are really going to admire, really going to be impressed with. So that's just me. Again, this is like the first time I utilized these features, and I didn't feel like this was a struggle at all. In fact, this piece came out very effortlessly, or the process was very effortless. And I don't know, that's a big game changer for me, because I was already a big advocate of Procreate. If you watch the channel, again, I talk about Procreate all the time. It's just a great app. And I was like, it pretty much took over my drawing, on the go, being able to use my iPad Pro and draw stuff effectively on the go. It was just a big thing for me. And I was like, kind of a little bit on the fence about the inking. I would do some inking in some other apps and things like that. But now with this particular modification or revamp of the app, it's all kind of right there. In fact, I was already starting to tell people that, hey, the coloring is fantastic in this. And in fact, I had already seen some big name Marvel DC guys that were coloring inside of Procreate. So that was another kind of thing that was like, man, if they can just get the inking right. And then bam, they came out with this 4.2 revision, and I feel like they nailed it. I don't even think that it needs to be any better. And to tell you the truth, like I really felt by doing this piece, and I also did one other, and I can't release it yet, but I'll make sure to share that with you guys real soon. I just felt like it flew right out. In fact, I just did some fan art with it, and I'll be sharing that later. And same thing, it didn't feel like I needed to tweak things or modify the brushes or do anything like that. I mean, you're still always going to do that because if you can make something better, then why not? And as you grow, these applications can kind of grow with you based on the fact that they have lots of controls within the settings. So at this current point in time, I just feel like it's all right there. I don't need much more. Now, we can always sit back and go, what else do we need here? Do we need word balloons? Do we need text tools? Yada, yada. You can always do that, but at the point in time that we're at now, this thing is fantastic for penciling, inking, and coloring. And right there, that's a pretty big chunk of what you got to do as a comic artist or an illustrator in general. So that's about it. I'm going to bring this one to a close. I hope you like this artwork. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section below. Have you had a chance to test the new app? What do you think about it? Share your thoughts below. As always, thanks for the support of the channel. More content is on the way. Keep drawing, keep having fun, and I will talk to you soon.